Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and I just finished watching Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan for the jabillionth time. I was just remembering something when I was finishing it up. Not only did I see it, I'm pretty sure in the theaters when it came out, but if any of you old heads who were kids in the late 70s, early 80s, do you remember a thing when they would have you would go to, I don't know, like a church event or sometimes at school, and they would bring in this projector and they actually had like real movies. These weren't the type that you could show in a theater, but you could like project them on a wall, like an old-timey movie projector, but not huge. I remember only seeing them at schools and churches. You would never see them at like someone's house. So they would have they would have Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Superman 1 and 2, and then they would have Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. So on my other channel, I talk about this concept of being perfect. And yes, people know what the common English word perfect means. But to me, the way I use perfect is, what did you intend? Excuse me. And how close did you come to your intent? There can be, theoretically, there could be a perfect episode of Two and a Half Men, even though I think it's trash. But if you just knocked it out of the park with your lowest common denominator sex jokes, that's fine. That was a perfect episode if you hit 100%. So I just did Star Trek the motion picture a couple days ago, and I said I really like that movie, but I understand why it's controversial. So the funny thing is that you notice a lot of stuff when you watch sequels right after each other. I completely resaw, or reevaluated all the Blade movies when I watched them like one day apart. So one of the things that I really noticed about Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, is that the pace is amazing, but the story is a little weird. It's a little wonky because it has threads and it ties up some of them, but it doesn't tie others, and some are just not even subplots at all. Like, Spock doesn't really have any conflict with being human, and he just kind of is just regular Spock. That plot, it's a great movie. Now the funny thing is, like I said, I saw this when I was really young, and all of these people looked so old to me, so old. But they're only in their early 50s. But then again, back then when this was shot, like most people died in their mid 60s. So they were old. They all had wigs and toupees and dyed hair, but they were older. But right now, they're only a couple years older than I am. So I saw it in a whole new light. So the deal is, Kirk is an instructor at the academy, and he does, or not an instructor, he's some sort of administrative position, but he does inspections, and he goes to inspect the Enterprise, where they're doing basically a training mission. And it's at the same time where Chekhov is stationed on the Reliant, and they ended up finding Khan and his group. I've actually never seen the Space Seed. I've just seen little bits of it when my dad was watching it. So I was confused on a couple things. Like, Khan he's like a super soldier, but he obviously looks like he's pushing 70. So he's aging in real time, but then he's got this gang of kids that are all like 20, and I don't know, were they like babies in little pods or something like that? I didn't understand that part. So anyway, Khan and his gang, they take over the Reliant, and then they got this whole cool thing with Genesis, which is a bomb that remakes matter and can basically turn a dead moon into some green planet. But basically what I was saying before about being perfect is, this story is messy. One of the things I forgot Nicholas Meyer did not write this. He's got uncredited credits if you look on Wikipedia, but I always remembered this as written and directed by Nicholas Meyer. We've got the same last name, so I was kind of keyed in on that. I do believe he wrote and directed Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, which I saw a million times in theaters and I love. But I forgot because it feels like it, because his writing style is very present in this. But it also feels like it went through like 20 drafts and people dipped in and out. Like they have Kirk feeling old, and they have a son that he knew about but he didn't see, and we got Genesis, and we got Khan. By the way, if you remember Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan being all about Khan, your memory is incorrect. Khan is barely in half of it. In fact, the revenge plot really only kicks in about an hour in, and it's wrapped up within 30 minutes. We're dealing with a whole bunch of other things, and Khan is, I mean, honestly, they just kind of go into a cloud that really isn't very dense at all. The cloud is just in the background. They're like, none of our sensors work. It's like, really? Because it kind of looks fine. It still looks like, I remember like the cloud being like this thick pink cloud, but it isn't at all. It's just a matte painting behind some models. But basically what he does is he pulls a couple tricks. Oh, here's the code. We lowered your shields. Oh, I told him to go away for 6 days, but they really just went away for 6 hours. Oh, I'm beamed up. We went into a cloud. Now I'm behind you. Photon torpedo right up your ass. That's basically it. It's like 30 minutes of plot machinations. But somehow they pull off. So if I'm going to say something like perfect is, what is your intent? And how close do you come to your intent? I think their intent was to talk about like 10 different things and make the most entertaining movie possible. And they absolutely did it. This movie is so well shot, so well acted, so well written, so well directed, so well everything, that you don't notice until like the 22nd time that they never ever show Khan taking over the Reliant. That's a major thing. and then it's like, where's the Reliant's crew? Oh, they're stranded on SETI, or wait, where are they stranded? SETI Alpha. I was thinking SETI Alpha 5 is the one that's hit with the Genesis device and turned into like a paradise, but that was like it was a different planet, right? By the way, there's this whole thing at the end with Spock dying that feels very like, oh, that's from Draft 5. It feels kind of, don't you have a suit that's thick? Like the engineering crew has this like radiation suit, but it feels like there should be like a double suit. He just goes in there with gloves. I feel like there's tons of those suits all over. He just goes in there with his officer's uniform and gloves, and he turns the thing with the thing so the warp drive can connect. The funny thing is they're by the Reliant, which is going to explode with the Genesis, and he says, we're like 4,000 kilometers, and his son shakes his head like, that's not far enough. It's like, then the Reliant blows up, and it just kind of blows up, and then later you see a matte painting of a planet, but I don't remember that planet being nearby. I don't know what the effective radius is of the Genesis device, but apparently it's hella wide. Before they showed it like touching things, but it doesn't have to, it just has to be like near something. I mean, not even that near, like thousands of kilometers away. But anyway, I think their goal was to kind of right the ship. They wanted something that would appeal to normies, because Star Trek the Motion Picture did not. And they just wanted to do a bunch of things. Kirk's getting old. Kirk's got a son. Spock, does a sacrifice. They gave everyone except for Uhura and Sulu Chekhov is like a major part of it. One of the things I love about this is how they spend their time. Now, usually when you have the villain, you're like, okay, so he gets off SETI Alpha 5, and then he gets onto the Reliant. No. They spend like 7 minutes just talking about the plight of Khan and his cult, and then interrogating and basically brainwashing with this little earworm, Chekhov, and I forget the captain. They spend like 7+ minutes just on that. And the next thing is, they just have a spaceship, and it totally works because there really wasn't more to learn about Khan after that 7 minutes. You knew he was egotistical. You know he was a Superman. He could lift someone up with one hand. You know he was a survivor. You know he's obsessive. You know he was genuinely loved by his gang there. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I feel like if you can capture these 2 Starfleet officers, I do feel... I wasn't really sure that I bought that he marooned the Reliant crew instead of just killing them all. Maybe he marooned them in the atmosphere above SETI Alpha 5, but I guess this thing was pretty personally against James Kirk. At one point, they have the Reliant. They have a ship and they have the Genesis device. And his little second in command is like, we got it. We won. It's like, he's like, no, we haven't won. Like, it's all about Kirk. But I think this was the first appearance of all Vulcans are sexy as hell from now on, female Vulcans. They got Saavik, who's just like, oh my gosh, 1982 Kirstie Alley. It's just like on it. And then they got, I forget what Kim Cattrall's Vulcan character was named. And then you got T'Pol in freaking Enterprise. I was like, there was just a meeting. Okay, so Vulcan women are like the sexiest women in the Star Trek universe. Okay, all right. But Saavik is great. Oh, and then they do the whole they got the Kobayashi Maru. Like I said, this is a fantastic movie that seems to be pulled from 5 different drafts by 5 different people. So the Kobayashi Maru is about, Kirk's always cheated death. He's always found a way. He's always had that little chummy little bit at the end of every episode. Ha ha ha, we saved the day. We fooled that god. We did this, we did that. And here they win and they lose. He does all of his little machinations, his double crosses, triple crosses, all of his gambits, and then they get away and Spock's dead. And that's just some really great writing. The acting is phenomenal. I forgot that one of the key shots from with Spock and Kirk, with that radiation chamber, it's one shot. I mean, not the whole scene, but there's a good almost like a minute. There's also this bit I never ever noticed. Spock is dying from radiation poisoning, and he sees Kirk, and he walks forward, and he actually bumps into the plexiglass. Now, I do think that was an actor's decision, and not just a weird. It's not like that scene in Star Wars where one of the stormtroopers bumps his head on one of the blast doors. But it was just a nice little bit to show this guy who's usually very in command of everything is so out of it and so addled and he's dying that he tries to walk through glass because he just doesn't see it. He just sees his friend and walks towards him. So I really don't have much more to say than that. The movie holds up very, very well. Boy, the effects look great. Everything looks great. One of the things is like they decided where to spend their money. They had these giant sets and a ton of oh my gosh, they reuse a ton of effects from the first movie in this one. Like a couple minutes worth of effect shots are just repurposed. Sometimes they take a full shot and they put it onto a viewer. But the whole shuttle pod to the Enterprise and the I think they showed the Birds of Prey as well. But really good movie. I think I am going to give Star Trek 3 Search for Spock another chance. I remember really hating it as a kid. But people are saying, yeah, they remember also hating it as a kid, and then they rewatched it as an adult, and it holds up really well. So I am going to check out Star Trek 3 The Search for Spock in, a couple days. So thanks for watching, and that Star Trek 3 will be my next video. Bye.